I'm Amy from Trees Not Teas. We offer race participants the chance to turn down a race tea, a finisher's tea at the end of a race, and plant a tree instead. And today we are talking to quite a guy with a phenomenal story, Rob Pope, author of the book Becoming Forrest. And we are going to be doing a giveaway of this very nice book, which he is going to show us. Thank you. That is out this month, out in October. We'll be doing a giveaway of that on our social media. So keep an eye on that. When you hear what this book is about, you're going to want a copy of that book. So you ran, let me get this right, you have run back and forwards across, 5 times across the USA.
I have indeed, yeah. Like, sort of technically, it's probably about 4.76, but I need to get the calculator out and work out exactly how far across America I got on that final run. Okay. Although one day, sort of, to draw a line under the whole sort of adventure, yes, I would like to go to the point where I finished, and then maybe make it just to have one last look at the ocean.
Back to the coast. Wow. Wow. You're making it sound like it wasn't quite long enough. I think it was long enough.
Well, I was pretty tired by the time I got to the end.
Yes. So to give people a little bit of an idea of what we're talking about there, that's the equivalent of about 600 marathons, right?
Yeah, or you could look at it sort of, obviously a few people have run across America before. Mm-hmm. So if you have the normal distance going across America and then add it to the distance running from the North Pole to the South Pole, that's a nice visual way of looking at it.
Oh my goodness. Did you try to think about or not think about things like that when you were actually doing it?
Yeah, I'm pretty good at sort of like, I don't really get into like a Zen focused state, but I'm pretty good at sort of not thinking about the troublesome parts, which is a blessing and a curse at the same time. There was only really my other half who thought I was ever going to do the whole thing, and I didn't really parrot much about what the actual big goal was, apart from to just run a very long way, because I think sort of it was intimidating enough just reaching the coast and then turning around and heading back the other way without thinking you had another 2 turns before you were even going to be on the final stint, No,
I mean, and that seemed to me, from what I've read and heard about you, that kind of was your approach, that you kind of just went into it almost like, well, let's just start doing this and see how it goes. You didn't have this sort of meticulously planned thing. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, it definitely is. Like, there were some things I wanted to do right because, it was fairly obvious from day one when I got the Forrest Gump haircut that I was trying to do something along those lines, And of course, everybody who's been out for a run has got a beard, has probably had the Forrest Gump thing shouted at them before. But I wanted to hit certain landmarks. Right. But I was also not naive enough to think that I was definitely going to get to those places. So I just sort of figured the best tribute you could do to Forrest would just literally be to get up one day, start in the right place, and then just go until you were tired and you had to go home. So, all in my, I had this like sort of mythical finish line in mind. But would I ever get there? That was the question.
It's the question. And how you did get there. And how long did that take you? How long were you running for?
422 days in total.
So I guess to most people, how do you run that far for that long is the question. How do you do that?
The worst bit was the first 3 or 4 weeks. And so I think sort of, ask that question sort of, how do you run a marathon or more every day for 4 weeks? It's a fairly similar answer to what I gave, because by that point, sort of, I would develop new injuries, like injuries that probably most runners would never experience or dream of, But it was a question of you would get an obstacle and then try and think your way around it. And sometimes that did involve a healthy dose of sticking your head in the sand and just going, right, I am injured. This isn't very good, but I've got to get to the next destination. So let's maybe get there and think about what I'm going to do tomorrow. Maybe I'll feel a little bit better.
Yes. And generally that kind of worked. You did?
Yeah. Or you'd find ways of just dealing with it or shutting out the pain. And, so it was never boredom. Sort of, it was more just a, just the need to sort of like focus on the fact that you had to go and move the next day, you know, and you had to sort of, you know, overcome whatever was there, because generally I would be in the middle of nowhere when one of these things would happen.
Right.
And so I'd always have to get to the next. And
Yes.
generally, at the end of the day, it's just like, you know, you wake up in the morning and you've got to go to work, because if you don't, your boss will shout at you. And my boss was effectively the fact that I didn't want to be sat in the same motel or sort of asking somebody if I could stay on the couch for another night. So I would just move on, get up, do my job.
Carry on. So what would you do? So how long would you be running for in the day? You get up in the morning and you start running, and then what kind of time would you be finishing?
Yeah, like so I've never been a morning person. I saw the occasional sunrise, you know, still there, but I saw many more sunsets and complete nightfalls.
Yes.
I would try and get on the road by about 8 o'clock, and I had a support team intermittently, mostly consisted of my girlfriend, but occasionally I'd have a friend visit me, and my friend Rick said I had a number of faff outs during the day, where I'd literally just be standing in the camper doing nothing. He'd be like, "Mate, stop faffing, get on the road."
Yeah.
And so with those faff outs, and of course I like to sit around and speak to people and watch the world go by. So
Yes.
I'd quite often be like out on the road for around 12 hours. I'd maybe run for around sort of 7 or 8 of those a day.
Okay. So you're stopping to meet people and chat along the way.
Yeah, like so it would have been, God, it would have been a drudge of a trip if I ever literally just, you know, tried to do something like I do take my hat off for people sort of who go for the long distance FKTs.
Yes.
And I will have a go at one day, but it wasn't right for this trip.
But not on the no. Well, I'm going to ask you about your future plans later on. So you did this absolutely phenomenal thing. I mean, wow, it's amazing. And now you've written a book about it. How was the process of writing the book?
Very in a way. Like I did a lot of the you know, the legwork for it, pardon the pun, on the run.
Right.
Initially, sort of when I did have some support, I would write a blog. But it's actually really hard trying to convert a blog into a book, because you write it in a very different way. It's much more familiar, and you know, sort of less grammatically correct. And then when I moved on, I would basically, you know, write a few things down. I'd be like, sort of, you know, say for today, I'd be like, Amy, trees, not teas. And then I would be saying like, you know, lunch in a special place or whatever like that.
Okay.
And eventually you would go, I just don't remember where I had lunch that day. But then you'd see a photo, and it was almost like you'd put together this spider web of memories. And to actually go through that, especially once the book was basically written, and then I was having to go through and sort of make it sort of suitable more for publication, which involved a hefty dose of shrinking down, most of which, fortunately, I was not responsible for, because I was too emotionally wedded to the stories. Yeah. But to have that, which it was the main reason to write the book, because I knew what I was doing was potentially sort of, you know, like important sort of in terms of, you know, certainly my life and my family's sort of life and all the people who supported me. Okay. But I think because of the iconic nature of the run, people will want to know about this, because, you know, no one had ever done the run. As I said, like, you know, people thought it wasn't even possible. Will anybody be mad enough to do it again?
Yes.
I don't know. I'd recommend it, but you have to be you have to be in a special sort of mindset to want to do it.
Do you think that sort of special mindset is sort of what you were talking about, almost being slightly in denial about it? Like, I mean, if you'd have set out thinking, yes, I am definitely going to do this, do you think it would have felt differently to you?
Well, yeah, I like, so I don't really like the pressure. Like, so I occasionally will do like competitive races, but I don't really like the build up to them. It's a bit like knowing you've got exams. Like, so when I've been in an exam and I've started writing the first few words, I actually genuinely enjoy them, apart from ones where I really struggle. Yes. But I hate the build up to it. I actually like the reading, I like the training, but then just knowing it's there, and like sort of you know, so if you've got like London Marathon coming up, I dread it. Yeah. And then of course once you're going, it's brilliant. So I try not to set myself too many goals for that. Okay. Talking about future things, when people set up these big huge things, I'm always thinking, oh wow, it's such a leap of faith. It's so brave of them to do that, because you put yourself out there, you're exposing yourself.
Yes.
Whereas my run, literally, I was there and I needed exposure for the charities, of course. One of which is very keenly wedded to your own aims, with the World Wildlife Fund.
Right.
But I didn't like drawing the attention to myself. I sort of like to think about it in the third person. Like, so I would talk about the run, oh, look how well the run's going, not how well I'm going, because it weirded me out.
Yeah, that's a tricky one, isn't it? I mean, I think some people almost feel that it's a good idea to draw all the attention, because then they've just got to do it because they've told everyone they're going to do it. It's another sort of mind trick, isn't it?
It certainly is one of those things. And if I ever do a thing like that, I will sort of, go out there and put it out there, not necessarily to sort of say, hey, look at this, isn't it brilliant?
No.
It's just going to be like, so I want people to go, well, you best go through with it, man. I actually, I talked about running across America a few times sort of in the past, because I like, on the subject of books, I read a book by a chap called Nick Baldock, and his run across America, and I just loved the way that he described what life was like on the road and the landscapes. And so I looked at routes, and I almost did it twice, two previous occasions. And then the time it happened this time, I said to a good friend of mine, Ben, I said, yeah, mate, I'm going to do it. I'm going to actually try and sort of, follow the route that Forrest Gump did. And he went, are you actually going to do it this time, mate, or just talk about it? And I was like, I know what you mean, man. And then I thought, well, let's just do it. And I had a good conversation with Nadine, sort of my now wife, and she just said, let's just do it. Let's set the date. And we found the date that Forrest actually started his run, and it was about 6 months away. And so we were just like, right, that's it. Let's put it out there. We started telling people and doing very sketchy planning.
Yes. Okay, man. Wow. It's really phenomenal. When you were talking about events, have you done much in the way of events? What's your kind of running background? What had you done prior to this?
So yeah, like sort of I'm like a fairly like sort of decent sort of sub-elite marathon runner, and I was lucky enough to win my hometown race, the Liverpool Rock and Roll Marathon, which unfortunately the last edition this year, and that was on my birthday. I followed it up. I won the year after, but in between that lovely little sandwich, because I was living in Australia at the time, I ran for Victoria and managed to win the Australian Championship. So I was 2015 Australian marathon champion, despite being from Liverpool, England, and but they didn't mind. I've been there long enough, and they were very gracious with it. They didn't even take the medal off me when I opened my mouth, so I was happy.
Wow, gosh. Okay, so you have got some pedigree there. And how about nowadays? Do you still do events nowadays?
Well, sort of, I realised that sort of one of the big motivations for the book was my mum, and she said to do one thing in your life that made a difference. And she passed away in 2002, not long after she saw me at the London Marathon. Oh. And I realised that next year is obviously the 20th anniversary now. I sort of haven't got the qualifying time at the moment, so I'm debating whether I can try and pull out a 240 somehow between now and New Year. But it might be a big ask. But I've done like the Marathon des Sables since I came back, and that was, obviously that's happening sort of as we do this interview. They're going to be somewhere in the sand dunes of Morocco now. And that's an unbelievable experience, and sort of I believe they're making massive strides towards making it carbon neutral as well. So that's a pretty cool thing.
Fantastic. Well, yeah, thank you for bringing us to that, because I did want to talk a little bit about sustainability. So obviously, what we do here, we offer, that you could get the chance to turn down your tea and plant a tree instead. Have you thought much about, I don't know, if you don't do that many kind of formal events, how much this applies to you, but have you thought about how you could make your own running be more sustainable, be a bit greener?
Yeah, like, so, well, to be honest, like, well, for the start, I know when you kindly offered me the chance to chat with you today, I was just like, didn't even think about it because I think you guys are amazing. I think it's such a fantastic sort of fantastic idea. And obviously expanding into the USA as well to, yeah,
Yeah,
plant some real big ones.
very
And
excited.
yeah, it's a sort of thing that I think everybody's going to have to become more aware of, because obviously it's nice to do these glamorous events, sort of, obviously you look at the marathon majors, a lot of people will go to Chicago, or, sort of even as far as Tokyo.
Mm.
And in this climate, you will have some people saying, do you think it's appropriate? I think it's very much a personal decision. And if somebody says, I'm only going to go to events, say, in the northwest of England, where I'm from, because I can, I like racing and I can just do it here,
Mhm.
that's cool. I also think that people who want to do these big events should be able to, but they've got to think about the way that they do it.
Mm.
Like, sort of, when I was in the States, I've kept a very detailed log of all sort of, my mileage and stuff. Where obviously the mileage where I was supported in the RV, and of
Yes.
course the flight. And I am, like, basically making that carbon neutral. So it's a really good sort of atmosphere. I've got a project where they make cooking stoves, much more efficient cooking stoves in Bangladesh and India. So
Right.
people have to chop down less wood, and it's got a special place for me because obviously that's in the tiger corridor. So with the World Wildlife Fund trying
Yeah.
to double the number of tigers in the wild,
Okay.
it's all about habitat. We know that, sort of tigers may be the glamorous ones, but
Yes.
if
But
you
all the
save their habitat, you save everything under that massive umbrella. And I think responsible, sort of not just going, oh, okay, well, I can offset my carbon for 20 quid here or 50 quid here, so I'll do the 20 quid one. You've got to really look into it and actually sort of see, the rating of these projects. And of course, sort of, with yourselves as well, like, sort of, so I'd love to do something for you guys if you wanted me to.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
yeah, like, sort of, however I can help. And
Thank you.
so that, yeah, so the people who want to do these big events shouldn't necessarily feel guilty. And I think the only way you can do that is either not to know about the issue, which is not the ideal one, or just go, actually, I'm more proud of the fact, never mind whether I got a medal in Chicago or planted a tree as a result of me competing in Tokyo, or lots of trees maybe. It's the fact that I researched into this and I'm now a lot more aware of the issue. And so,
Yeah.
running's about making yourself feel good. So
Yes.
everything's about making yourself feel good, really, at the end of the day. We are by nature selfish beasts, but we can make ourselves feel good in ways that benefit.
By the choices. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what you were saying about the flying is absolutely right. And what I keep hearing time and time again now is that people are perhaps selecting more carefully which is the one that they really want, which is the one that's worth the
Yeah. The
rather than
cherry on the cake rather than just like sort of a whole tub of glacé cherries. Well, I love glacé cherries, I really do.
yeah, no, but I get the idea. Yeah. So fantastic. Thank you. So what's next for you then? So you've got this possible London Marathon on the horizon?
Yeah, that's it. And so, well, I'm actually doing something. By the time this comes out, we'll know sort of exactly where I failed and where I succeeded. But this coming weekend, I am trundling up to Blackpool, and I'm aiming to do a different park run every hour
Oh,
until, just like Forrest, I get to say I'm pretty tired. I think I'll go home now. And so if I get 24 done, I should get as far as Glossop. And then sort of, I might have a couple of hours sleep, get over the Pennines, and see if I can go through Sheffield and beyond. So that's my main focus at the moment.
oh,
And
okay.
then, yeah, beyond that, I'm always about ideas and stuff. It's about basically I stir the pot, and eventually one of them will pop out and taste pretty good. So, and I'll just make sure whatever I do, it's done the right way.
Oh, amazing. Well, we have to definitely keep an eye out to see how that goes for you. Best of luck. Wow, what a brilliant idea.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for talking to us. Could I just get you to hold your beautiful book up again one last time so we can just see? This is the book that tells the whole story of this unbelievable journey back and forth across America. Thank you. And thanks so much for coming on to talk to us, Rob. Take care.
No worries. Cheers. All the best.
Thank you.